I thought it was a bullet and a loaded gun. I carved your name into my chest. I'm bad news, I'm just so unbearable. They say I'm much worse than the rest. You're no better, I'm so fed up. You're too heady to surface love. I don't get it, so I'm leaving you behind, cool world. 'Cause I am just your cigarette boy. A perfect image you can see. Was I born to let you down? Cigarette boy. My heart's been flooded and disease. Was I born to let you down? Been a few weeks or more and I'm not really sure when this will start to make me younger. One hand on the door, I'm not me anymore. It feels like I'm going under. And I fell in love with the picture that you borrow until I found out I was destined just to rock. 'Cause I'm your cigarette boy. A perfect image you can see. Was I born to let you down? Cigarette boy. My heart's been flooded and disease. Was I born to let you down? I'm always gonna let you down, and nothing's gonna change that now. I'm always gonna let you down, so turn me up and wet me down. I'm always gonna let you down, and nothing's gonna change that now. I'm always gonna let you down, 'cause I'm just your cigarette boy. A perfect image you can see. Was I born to let you down? Cigarette boy. My heart's been flooded and disease. Was I born to let you down? Cigarette boy. A perfect image.
Mic test. Hi. Hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good time zones, everybody. It's Finch once again. And we are back tonight live to continue. Wait, let me go back to my room. Alright, that was Cuff intro, but we are back. This is Finch once again. It's a bit noisy right now because there's like a basketball game going on nearby. We live near a clubhouse. So, wait, I can hear myself on my phone. Let me turn this down. Let me turn this shit down. Okay, so much so. So let me also turn down my music a bit because it's kind of loud for my ears. For my ears. Okay, so tonight's agenda, finish my karate fan arts and probably hop onto Wuwa next continuation. So that's what I'm looking for to be done tonight. And with that, let's go on and move on to our Clip Studio Paint. So let's switch to our art scene. Okay, I'm gonna mute just a bit because I need to focus. But I can unmute every time, chat. So if you say hi, I will unmute. It's alright. Okay. Okay, chat. Be right back. I will be locking in. Let's lock in. Wait, hold on. I think I need to I need to restart my CSP because the cursor is all whacked. It's in the wrong place. Yeah, it's drawing on the wrong part of the screen. So let me restart this. Let me restart this real quick. I don't know why it keeps on doing that. Also, I think my microphone is speaking. It is speaking. My max volume. Testing echo. Echo testing. Testing. Mic test. Hello. All right. Let's go back to my arts. Yeah. Oh wait, I need to restart my CSP. What happened? I thought was bullet and let it go. Okay, let's reopen our file. Cardi B. I want this other side of that cloth to be a bit stretched down. There are no layers for me to edit because I'm just drawing changes on top anyways. She's my love. She's my love, Johnny. She's my love, joy. She's my love, joy. She's my love. She's my love, joy. There. I think it looks better for me. Maybe a bit lower. Like so. This one, could just use a liquify tool. Wait, where's my liquify tool? It's really noisy right now in our neighborhood. That's why I've been muting myself for the past days. Even now, it's actually noisy, but I can't just keep on muting myself forever. No? Joy, she's my love, joy. She's my joy. Alright, tonight's playlist features in the playlist for now. Last time it's all about my usual playlist, but this one is let's take a chiller playlist for now. Okay, so what's next is I gotta fix the accessories. But I gotta update my stream title. Or I can just pin it on the chat message. Pin it on a chat message right here. Pin art and there, it's pinned. Let's manually unpin it till the end of the stream. Line art. How to line arts. Majority of this art right here, I skip the line art because I'm not kind of a line art type of guy. I'm impatient. I don't have the patience for line art, like a serious line art. I know I should be doing some line art first, but nah, nah. Alright, so I'm drawing over my changes. I don't know. For me, it's pretty more convenient to just draw over the layers for me, rather than go on some wacky layer hunting. I don't like that. That is why I'd rather draw on top of the existing layers and merge them down. It's easier for me that way. But how do I sound? I'm really curious. Okay, so this is a test. There's a sample. Here's a sample message. Testing, testing. 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3. Okay, seems fine to me. Okay, let's split the window into two. And then put them side by side. Put them side by side. There. And so let's continue. Let us continue. Maybe I should put some black line over here. Oh, that's too thick. Too thick. Please, hando. Zahando. I'll just draw a new layer, then do this quick brush stroke, and then just use the transform tool to move it. To move this line stroke right here. There. Maybe I should double it. Double it and give it to the next person. She's my love joy. She's my love joy. I want the top part to be thicker. Turn down the opacity a bit. Compare. Maybe I'll put this on 50%. 50% opacity. Seems fine to me. Seems fine to me. This one, draw a bit of a red line over this side. Bit darker. A darker red over here. Maybe I should put some even darker shade of red here. Oh, wait. I haven't merged it properly. Merge that down. New layer. Thin line on top here. Let's put a bit of occlusion right here. Okay. Oh yeah, I have to pull up my reference real quick, so I'm opening my phone. Or maybe I'll just open a separate browser. A browser. Pulling up a reference so I can properly draw the details. Uh, Carthia. Carthia texture model reference. Evans place. Oh, so there's like a thing here. This dangling thing is right here. I don't know what's it called. So this should be sharper. This should be sharper. Let's just make it black lines over here. So it looks a bit more visible. Maybe I should move the view right here a bit. Should turn down my pen sensitivity. Right. I think this is a bit wrong. Let's copy this one. Merge this on top. And then this one. Should be a little bit closer. So this one is, might have to edit this. I need a new layer for this one. And this should have like a flat top over here. A flat top and a loop. Should have been that way. It's kind of not, it's kind of wrong. Badger on the prowl. Next song, please, Maestro. Where's my Spotify? Now let's go back to my usual playlist. It's not a diamond, submarine. So desperate. Okay, back to my art. You know you could. I wish you would. Return a piece of my heart, you borrow things we used to say. It should have been this way rather. If I don't finish this on stream, I'll just continue working this offline and I'll be posting it on my socials. Like, right, we can finally move on to other things. I'm looking to draw other characters. I already have another one lined up. It's Frolova next. Frolova. I'm really confused with my reference right now. So I'm just drawing the fundamental shapes first, an oval right here in the middle. It looks like a crown right here. This top looks like a crown. Killing the karma. And there's like a chain link here. Even further away. Now you wake, even 6 years later. It's just the same, 2,000 miles away. Betrayers never change. Maybe I should use a round watercolor brush because it adds some interesting textures. Which I really like. I should practice more watercolor in real life. It's just that I kinda find it sort of a waste. I mean, for when using a lot of papers, that stuff. Oh, this song is a banger. Okay, CSP is saving. I'm the one who's bleeding. I'm barely breathing. Sudden screaming. I'm barely breathing. Okay. Oh, there's like a bit of a spike thingy, thorn looking thing right here. And if it kills you, now we're even. Oh, that's too small. Take me back to what we had. Take me back to what we are. Just take me back. I'm done with this side right here. I'll just copy and paste it over here because I'm lazy. Sudden screaming took a piece of me and now I'm barely breathing. Just take me back, help me out. I'm barely breathing. Also, my bad habit is zooming in too much because with my current tablet right now, it's kind of get kind of hard to get the precision that I want. So that's why I zoom in too much. This one's too thin. This side right here. The antidote somewhere in this room, but the antidote is gone. Wait, this should be lighter. This part right here. Don't let go, cause you're fighting for us both. I should use this brush right here. But the antidote is somewhere in this room. The antidote is gone. Oh, I think this one should be a bit thinner on this side. No, I'm blind. I am blind. Okay, that's more like it. It's just equipment, still late to try, just keep me breathing. Won't let go. Don't let go. Hey, hold up. I think this part. Yeah, I think I should raise this a bit higher. Put this one a bit higher. And I'll fix the details shortly. Oh, what's up, River? How are you? Welcome to the stream. Wait, I think I got this one wrong. River says they're at their job right now. Take her over there. How many hours in? Wait, hold up. I need to look at my reference. Reference. I can't zoom in even further. Seven years of information, you say? Hmm. Wait, what kind of job is that? Is it IT? You work IT? Yeah, sounds so technical. Because I used to work IT and I used to do file transfers all the time, file backups. So, oh, editor. A River is an editor, I see. Yeah, especially if it's a failing drive. Oof. I hope it doesn't take forever though. Like, doesn't eat up your lifetime. Wait, this one. Yeah, editing is such a busy job. You have so much files to work on. You have, at first, I remember doing some editing gigs on the side. And I was so organized in the beginning until works keep piling up. And eventually I just threw caution to the wind and just proceeded with editing without organizing the file. So it really gets messy. I can feel that. even gonna take long if it's like HD stuff you're working on, I imagine. And I need to take a closer look on the details. I think I'm getting the details wrong because I'm not the best at I'm not the best at multitasking. Normally, if I draw, I just lock the fuck in. So, man, if I can't do the streamer thing very well, here I am. Oh, you work for the news station. That's actually big. That's a big responsibility. News station. Have breaking news. This just in. Oh yeah, it's really crucial because you have to get onto the latest and hang with the news team. News channel. So it's like 40 hours plus. It's like a 40 hours standard with weekends. You need a break. River needs a break. Give them the break. Hang in there, buddy. Also, my apologies if I take a while to load my whenever when I'm talking back because English is not my first language, so I'm processing the translator in my head. We try. Maybe that's the reason I stream because I want to practice my English because it's not the best. And also just to show my art here and there. I used to make friends back in school and then I had some Korean friends and there's a fake language barrier, so all we had to do is speak English and we keep on taking like 1 to 2 minutes before replying to each other because yeah, both of us we don't speak like the natives do. From Mongolia. Interesting. We had some friends from Germany. We had some friends from Bangladesh, from Chile, I presume. And now we have someone from Mongolia. Welcome in, welcome in. It's actually awkward, but can't do anything about it. You just stick with it. I'm from the Philippines, by the way, so it's Asia time zone, 9:36 p.m. But Mongolia is only a few hours difference, I think. I get the detail wrong. I think this should be longer here. Oh, same time zone, same time zone. I'm bad with time zones, chat. Do you come here on Twitch often? Do you watch other streamers as well? Funny thing is, I made this Twitch back when I was a baby. Not literally a baby. It's like a really early days, I think, because there was this. Yeah, chat. You got me. I used to play League of Legends, and I used to watch closely on the tournaments. And at the time, Twitch was fairly new, and they had like a promo. Oh, sign up on Twitch and receive this, blah blah blah. And then so I made my Twitch like a forever ago, and then I didn't touch it till 2020, I think. So my my Twitch birthday is hey, my Twitch year created was 2013, I believe. It's really long. Long forever ago, literally. And I had no idea. So what made me come back to Twitch though? I think I was just watching some FPS players. I think I came back to on Twitch to watch some Apex streams. It's funny because I'm hopping on Twitch to find content on games I play, and fast forward to now, I don't play those games anymore. I no longer play shooter games. I no longer play those mobile games because they are tilt inducing, not gonna lie. And ever since quitting, it's been better overall. And I'm bored. Yes, I'm just a yapper. Yapping is fine. I wish I have you guys energy because I need to yap. I need to yap more. Sometimes I run out of things to yap about, so I will just go on random stuff, I guess. So if it's a video editing for the news station, it's gotta be like the software you're using is like the big standard. It's I imagine it's all about Adobe and stuff. Freelance ID work. I see. So that's why you have background with migrating files from disk to disk. Oh. Reinstalling OS. Like, but it's faster. I I gotta admit that's faster. I think the worst problem that we had back in IAD days was there was there came in a malware. It's I used to work IT in a school, and when I was new there, I had no background of what's going on whatsoever. And it just so happened that on my time there that there has been some ransomware problems in the library department. So and it was my first time dealing with ransomware. So what we did was just completely wipe everything from there. There was no backup sadly because the for some reason the guy at the what you call this at the library department, they didn't do utmost care to archiving their stuff. So ugh, that made me cringe. Yeah, sometimes it's a matter of efficiency anyways. So you gotta do it the faster way. Like it also depends on the clients and customers if they don't want you to if they want their stuff they want their shit actually finished yesterday. they there's nothing we can do about it but just straight up reformat like reinstall. It's actually you feel like a boss when feels like a boss when you're just working freelance IT and then you just carry on the flash drive with your tools and stuff right in there. Yeah. That's right. Bread and butter. That's the right term that I'm looking for. I think I'm gonna take forever here because get I can't seem to get the details right. Because I keep on alt tabbing. Alt tab. There's also like a spike here. This is like a tiny detail, but I don't know why. It's the impulse. I feel so compelled to include the other details. Details that are easily missed anyway. Yeah, Google every problem. If it's a programming problem for me, it's Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow. Man, the new graduates, the fresh graduates, the new batch, they had no they are lucky because they have they have AI now. They have Chat GPT now. You could ask they could ask whatever problems they have. Although I don't fully trust the answers Chat GPT throws, but it's all Chat GPT students, right? Sheesh. Good thing I no longer work IT at the school because I feel like it's gonna be all about AI stuff. Back back then they also make me handle the orientation of the it's like IT orientation of the faculty and students. So I usually do some public speaking, and I don't know why how and I don't know how I managed to do all that like orientation. And here I am. I'm struggling to get a sentence or two on stream. It's insane, brother. I think it's the pandemic. I think pandemic killed my talking skills. It's insane depended there on that. Here in the Philippines, there's like a crazy amount of teachers complaining about AI generated work they turn over as their assignments, the papers, academic papers. Like holy moly. There, it's the end of the world for them. It's the end of the world. By the way, any chance you play Wuthering Waves? Because I'm drawing a character from Wuthering Waves right now. And I'm planning to switch over that game anytime soon. But if you don't play gacha games, I understand because uh, it's not for everyone. Gacha is not for everyone. Gacha players have bad reps. The gacha community is a kinda not good reputation overall. But feel free to share what type of games you're into. I like talking about games and stuff, like childhood games and other classics. Yeah, it's difficult to play gacha. But for me, I can manage because I don't spend money that much in games. I don't buy skins. I used to play those shooter games, but I don't spend a dime for the skins and stuff. I guess what use is a skin if I suck anyways? That's my that's how I look at things. I don't whale my way to get the characters that I want. I'm playing whatever. I think my first video game was it's really old. I played it when I was in elementary, but I think the game was older than me. So back in the day I would dig out whatever CD that I could find, then see if I could install any games. I think I found Warcraft that way. It was Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3, Warcraft 2. I think Warcraft 2. It's really old. So from Warcraft 2, I think I tried playing Counter Strike, but my Asian household parents didn't want me to play Counter Strike because it's violent or something. So I grew up playing The Sims. The Sims. It's crazy, The Sims. That's why my other friends would ask me, "Hey, let's play some. What are you down for some Dota games later?" I'm sorry, I can't. They want to play Counter Strike. I can't. I partly because I don't have any experience with the game, but also I just they're just gonna gang up on me because I'm that easy target. That's why I can't play really well. Wait, they blocked my Steam account because I made it in Russia. Heavy region law. Hey, wait, they really do, but other people just VPN their way, or I don't know. Maybe just it's because of you can circumvent the prices of games you can actually get. I think that's what it's all about, I guess. You can no longer buy games. What? Steam? You don't want this guy's money? It's crazy. Yo, PayPal is such a shitty company. I'm not gonna apologize. PayPal is shit, man. Like I work freelance and back in 2022, they fucked up my account, so I wasn't able to get any. I had trouble setting up payments just because my PayPal got a problem, and they told me via email that it was because I had the problem with PayPal. I was trying to set up a business account, and then when I emailed them for support, they were like, "Wait a minute, your account is suspicious." Suspicious how? And they told me that my PayPal account was made when I was 17. So they had to block my PayPal account and adios. Good thing I don't have any funds stored in there because I always transfer my earnings right away. So, but still, it really sucks. So what they advise me is to make a new PayPal account so that it properly reflects my age at the date of creation. So that is some bullshit right there. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with their. We just can't have good things like mom. It works. It just works. I want something that works. Like this is gonna take me forever because I keep on. These details are so complicated for my 10 p.m. brain. My 10 p.m. brain cannot process the details. It should be this right here. I think that's good enough. I'll just fix the line weights. I think this part should be a bit bigger on this side. I tried using other payment methods like payment gateways like Payoneers. For a while I could use Payoneers, but they don't have at the time they don't have the thing that you could make a business account. You have to expose your full name. You have to dox yourself. I don't know about now. If Payoneer is still the same. I do have another PayPal right now, but I don't trust it that much. I think this is fine now, so let me just copy this. Copy this one. Wait. Selection pen. Highlight this. And make sure that I deselect the parts that I don't want to be included in the cutout. You see, I should be drawing on a new layer, but I don't know why. I'm making it a practice to keep it in less than 10 layers because anything more, my PC will explode. My PC will explode if I could stop one layer from lagging. What is your like favorite software right now for editing? Because my sibling is asking me about how to get Adobe without sailing the seven seas, and that's like virtually impossible. It's even crazy that Adobe charges the subscribers whenever they want to unsubscribe. Premiere Pro, Adobe Premiere Pro. Oh wait, Premiere Pro. Oh yeah. I keep on getting confused with Premiere Pro and Sony Vegas. I don't know why. I thought it's both Sony or something. I guess I haven't edited enough vids. As my cheap ass is just using Adobe. Wait, DaVinci Resolve. That's all I use. But it's just a really basic rudimentary editing. I'm not so good with editing. I just got used to the program and never really use anything else. It's kind of hard to relearn more software. Like, what are the hotkeys? What's the workflow on this? Even I got a steep learning curve with CSP coming from the free one, Krita, for the drawing app. Wait, this one should include this. Maybe I can now copy this. Okay, copy layer and paste. Then with some magic, boom. This is laziness. Wait, why is this so scuffed down here? I need to fix this. Ah, so you're familiar with DaVinci, I see. DaVinci is goated. Really crazy for an open source. Really big fan of open source. Oh yeah, node node based editing. It took me a while to get used to because it's kind of similar to applying shading and material on Blender somewhat. I tried using Blender before, and there's like a part that's kind of the same with DaVinci, like node based editing. And I was like, diagrams, diagrams. Let me get back to my diagrams. It's all about the diagrams. Diagrams. Okay, just clean this up right here. Before my common practice was just make a bunch of layers, then draw each separate, like the hair layer, the clothes layer, the line art layer or something. But I get lazy over time because I don't have the patience to layer hunt all the time. Plus, my PC is not thanking me for keeping a bunch of layers. It's easier to just draw on top of what I need to change. It's like if I knew Photoshop, it's just Photoshop work to me. Oh shit. I didn't notice Messier64 because you and Reaper got both green names. I thought I read everything already. I'm sorry. I'm doing good, by the way. Also, thank you for dropping by. May your internet be good to you soon. Just right now, I'm just locking myself into this piece of art right now. Oh, River is back with the red orange name. Yo, don't it's not your fault. It's not your guys' fault. It's my fault because I didn't spot the names right away. It's on me. It's on me. My bad. I'm not the I'm not the professional streamer. How to be a pro? I guess I gotta put more hours onto the game. How to be a streamer. Okay, let's clean this up, this part as well. Maybe I just use this lasso fill tool. There, clean, clean, clean. Thank you for dropping by, River. It was nice talking about whatnot. Anything under the sun or what's going on. Take care with work, bro. Let's go. I think I managed to get this one done. I mean the this part right here. I still gotta stare at this for like a good 20 minutes and then see what I could change, I guess. Feel the pressure I do. Soon. Okay, almost there. I think I want this one. I think I want this one to be but bit more bright on this side. Just a tiny hint of light around here. My lighting skills are whack, so I'm just winging everything. What you see here, I wing everything. Lighting, the pose. It's actually awkward because it's far away from the pose that was in my reference, but I eventually gave up and just went with this pose. It was a different pose than this one. If I could only open up the reference that I've been using, but I couldn't be bothered to open a bunch of folders. Wait, I think this needs to be brighter. Wait a minute. I think I should use like a color dodge or a glow dodge layer, I guess. So look at this before, after. So that's more defined, I guess. So I gotta merge this down. Before I was so scared shitless to merge layers, but gotta get used to it. Gotta be more decisive. It may be dumb, but I'm trying to be more decisive. Okay. Looks good in black and white. I'm using a black and white filter built in on Windows. You could actually find this filter on the... Wait, let me show you guys. In case you are curious, chat, on how to see your art in black and white to check your values. I mean, I'm not the best at values. I'm no values expert by any means, but I'll show you guys how it is. Wait, let me just go to settings. Settings and then accessibility. Wait, how do I show my screen without revealing my name? Oh, this one. Wait. Okay, desktop, show the desktop. There you go. On Windows, you open up your settings, then go to accessibilities, then color filters. Wait, not this one. Oh wait, never mind. This is it. You go to accessibilities, color filters, keyboard shortcut for color filter. So it is set to Control, Window key, and C. So make sure this one is turned on. And then for the color filters, this one, if you turn it on, it will actually change your display the color settings. Like if you're colorblind, you could select these settings right here. But if you want to see your entire screen in grayscale, you just press this one. And then you could toggle this with the hotkey below. Like it's Window key, Control C. So I toggle my grayscale mode that way so I could check values if it's to my taste something. All right. So okay, back to CSP. Right. You're locked in. We are locking in, chats. So I'll be with you in like 5 minutes. I need the pop filter because my letter S is like so moist. Like s. What if I use like a sock? Put a sock on the microphone. Hello. Testing. Testing. Hi, testing. Oh shoot. Okay. Back to work. Wait, I didn't have any alerts on. What the heck? Wait, my overlays are whacked. Sorry guys if it's a scuff stream. Today is a scuff stream. I know it's hard to feel. I don't care at all where you are now, how you feel. Waving slides off as these wheels rolling on and on. Slow things down, don't speed them up. Not enough, nor way too much. How are you and I'm gone? I can't make it on my own. So got my wrist and black my eyes. Give me Riz and black my because you kill me. Wait, it should be brighter. Oops. Spare me just 3 last words. I love you in such a hurt. But I can't wait forever. Spare me just last words. I almost went on full screen. I can't make it on my own. Cause my heart is in Ohio. So cut my wrists and black my eyes. So I can fall asleep tonight or die. Because you kill me. Never stop until so cut my wrists and black my eyes. So I can't fall asleep tonight. I can't make it on my own. Cause my heart is in Ohio. Cut my wrist and black my eyes. Wait, let me just take a look at my reference once again. Because you kill me. You like it too, and I can tell. I think this one should be darker. Let's use a watercolor with a blend mode of multiply. In hold on, wait. Wait, chat, hold on. I just have to BRB because I tripped on on my outlet. Yo, chat, I'm back, but uh, I gotta take a break here eating on stream because my fam just grabbed me some sushi right now. I got some California maki, some tempura rolls, shrimp tempura maki. Wait, I gotta mute. I gotta mute because you don't want to hear the chewing. Okay, we're back. I just took the time as well to freshen up as well. I took a quick rinse, wash my face because it's really hot in here right now. Okay, let's unpin this message and go back to our other pin. It's okay, art and wool for tonight. All right, continue. So I'm starting to finalize this. I'm just taking a look at what could I further change. I think I'll be changing this. Oh shit, I merged. I already merged it. So you just gotta do this the hard way, I guess. This part right here, this other thing here. There. Okay. And now let's push this down. Wait, I should probably. Maybe I should just copy an old layer. This one. I should just copy this. Because I fucked up. Give me a feel. Little fucked up sometimes. This one right here. Copy this. This part right here. Lock this layer so I don't mess it up. All right. And soft brush, delete. Wait, not this one. This one. Then I can move this down. Maybe I should just rotate this a bit. Should be the flow that I wanted is something like this. Right, making sure that I'm not missing anything. It's so hard to navigate with the tablet. Okay. New layer. I think that's more like it. Hmm. Just gonna draw over the corrections. Hmm. Okay, merge layers, merge layers. Ouch. Ouch, ouch. Hmm. Oh, noisy. You can hear the background noise. Sorry about the chat. I'm sorry about the noise. It's quite some noisy neighborhood I got here for RNG. Hello, are you? Will you be gone? Outside in my sleep, soon you will know. It's like a buzz horn. It's like a buzz horn they're playing at the basketball court. In this dream, don't bring me around. You must sleep. Polar bird. And I stay trapped in this dream. Don't bring me around now. Die in my sleep. Wait, I think I'll be switching to Uwa in 10 minutes. I'll turn it off in the worst mornings. And we better we're heading for a cliff. Could be alone and better off when I hit the bottom. Maybe I should blend this. I want this one to be my best work yet, so hence the amount of time. It's been a 3-part stream. I mean, 3 times on stream that I've worked on this live, so it's gotta be the final parts. And if I decide to add more to this, I'll be doing it off stream, I guess. I'll be switching to WoWA N like 10 minutes. Still not happy with the hair, so I'll be changing so much. What is this open mufflers outside? These guys are running motorcycles with open mufflers. But I gotta mute, it's really noisy, I'm sorry. Now to her only what it is to burn. Okay, back to the hair. Oh, how fitting. This is Carthia's theme song. Straight into Slipknot. Alright, I think I'll call it off here for tonight's art. I'll be finishing this off stream, but it's pretty much done. I'm just cleaning up the details. So this is my card 3 art from Wuthering Waves, a game which I'm about to switch to next. So let me save this. Let me save this. I just need to fix some details of the hair because it's all over the place. Alright, so let's launch the game. Let me switch to my game scene. Oh wait, BRB pala. Go to chat muna. Okay, let me just open the game. Da, 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 da. Back to Rinasita. Let's go. Septimont. Wait, let me plug in first. Okay, loading screen. I think we're safe now. Screen, desktop, Blender, CSP. Where is my game? Wait, where is my game capture? Game capture.
Time for a little nap.
Hey. There you go. We are back to Wuthering Waves. Hello. And this is our subject of the fan art. It's Cardathia. Okay, so where was I? It's this one I haven't done yet. This one I haven't started yet. Haven't explored that much. This one, it's for next time. Oh, TOA reset. TOA reset and Whimpering Wastes. Maybe I should... I'll just do this next time. Let us go back to Septimont. Okay, let's go. Septimont. Fast travel. Also PSA, if any WoWa players here in chat, if you are lagging, you could skip launcher and just run the exe file. That should help with the frames somehow, because I used to get like 20-ish here with my very old RX 580. So where was I? Investigate near the tower gate. Let's do just that. So what do we have here? The arena. Oh, that's right. I need to track the main quest. Shadow of Glory. Okay, let's talk to this guy. Wait, my tablet is still on the table. Need to put this away so I have more room for my mouse. Are you ready for the gladiators, Aegon? Yes, I'm ready.
Happy hunting, gladiators.
Happy hunting.
Wandering waves,
Yo, let's go. Wuthering Waves team. I can't believe we named our team Wuthering Waves. Title drop. Roll credits. Oh, nice up.
Wind howls. Unfettered by bounds.
There you go, take that.
Wind rises.
We give this. If only I could use Cardathia for this fight, but this is a trial battle, I guess. Wait, let's take a look at what could Lupa do. Sheesh, look at that. I think she got this. She doesn't need my help. Don't mind me, I'm just watching Lupa.
Fierce attacks. Shame it's only exposing your weaknesses.
Wait, let's just dodge this guy.
Your skill is fueling my bloodlust.
Let her have all the glory. I'd say. So those are her skills, eh? Yo, we won. I barely did anything. I just did like 1/4 of the fight. It's all Lupa. Nice looking sword.
Standing on the water.
Cardathia standing on the water.
That abnormal sensation came over me again when my sword struck the contender's echo.
So we're getting
All the
visions of
echoes in
Cardathia.
Septimont seem to exhibit unstable power. Something is definitely off.
Something's definitely off.
Seems like no one else has noticed.
But it seems like no one else has noticed.
Contender Lupa isn't in the Power of Legions anymore.
Lupa? Lupa.
Shame.
Just 2 days before the finals as well. It's unfair to her former teammates and her fans.
Is it about the money? She's changed teammates how many times now? As for that newcomer next to her,
No, Marites.
Without the Silver's patronage, there's no way a gladiator from the outskirts could rise to fame so quickly.
Quiet down! Where are you hearing these rumours? Open your eyes. Wilbur has never once thrown a match.
Jeez, these people really talking smack. Talking
Everyone
smack.
thinks they know the real truth. But consider this. It's a fact I know to be true.
Let's go, my fellow warrior.
Yeah, let's get out of here. These people ain't it, man.
It's all going as planned. Let's get you settled somewhere comfortable. Then tomorrow, we head to the Colosseum Olympus for the semi-finals.
I've been meaning to ask, is there a body of water in the city? I think Cardathia might have passed through there.
A body of water.
A body of water.
A body of
Yes,
water.
but it's been abandoned for years. That elevator can take you to the upper city, though.
Oh, the upper part of the city.
If you want to try looking for her, we can start there.
It's always a good spot to go somewhere up high.
And,
Yes?
Wait, I need to take screenshots. Screenshot. Screenshot.
those people just now, they talked about match fixing. Don't you want to challenge that?
I didn't have time to gather enough proof before I left. Besides, this isn't the right moment. Once we win the Great Aegon, I'll make everything public. In Septimont, only the winners get to speak their truth.
Doesn't it bother you? Their slander gets under my skin. For real. People talking smack.
A strong warrior with a kind heart. Rare traits for a hunter. Honestly, I don't care what people say. This kind of thing happens every day in Septimont. If you can't handle it, you won't last.
Everyone is a
Tarnishing
doubter.
rival reputations is
That's
one
what
of
it
their
is.
usual tricks. I cut off their betting profits, so it's only natural they'd be upset. Besides, now I have a reliable warrior by my side. That's all that matters.
Sheesh. Wait, screenshot. I'm taking loads of screenshots.
No worrying about whether my teammate can keep up. No dealing with petty politics.
Yo, this scenery looks good.
Just the thrill of the fight. Thank you for that, my fellow warrior.
No problemo. Hello, adventurer. Good morning. Nice day for fishing, ain't it? Okay, let's go. Wait, I see someone's casket. This cube right up there. Let me just fly up. Nice.
Fly too.
Why would the place you mentioned be abandoned?
Because of the first dark tide in Raguna. Oh, you know what a dark tide is, right?
Yes, the
Yes.
element, the wave-worn phenomenon
Due
is
to
what they
certain safety
say.
concerns at the time, the main city district was relocated further up the hill.
Main city uphill, I see. Okay, let's dash by picking up this cat. Oh, it's downstairs.
When I grow up, I'll be the strongest gladiator.
Wait,
I'll finally get to meet
let's pause for a while and let's take a look at the
Griffon.
let's take a look at the environment. This is like a vendor. What's going on here? I've known you for quite a while now, old man. How is it that we've never seen you sell a single item? Hey, want us to give you a hand, old timer? I can lend a hand too if you want. The gear doesn't seem too bad. You got a good eye. Everything in my shop is of the highest quality. It's just too bad none of the other passerby have senses as good as yours. They think my gear is antiquated. I remember back in the day people used to fight over my goods. They weren't enough to go around. You know that foreign gladiator who won the championship 20 years ago? I'd say she owes half her victory to me. But ever since my voice has gotten hoarse, I can't hawk my wares so well. So no one buys from me anymore. Again with the story, 20 years ago, as far as I'm concerned, there's no one cooler, stronger than Lupa. When I grow up, I wanna buy some of your gear, old timer, then go ask Lupa to be my mentor. Don't worry, old man, your shop's ambassadors. Warms my heart to hear it, youngsters. Okay, some exchange with a merchant and some kids. I see some people who are Lupa fans here in Septimont.
Do you remember that gloomy gladiator?
Look at this. Wait, let me take a screenshot. This looks so good. Let's take a screenshot. Let's raise up the camera. Wait, could I hide the character though? Why is it there? Get out of the way. There you go, we can adjust the camera position. There you go.
Do you remember that gloomy gladiator from decades ago?
I see some echoes, some new echoes. This one looks like a Digimon. You know that one, Patamon chat? Patamon from Digimon, and this one, I don't know who, but yeah, this looks like Digimon. Right, so we take the elevator up. Do we have any chests in the area though?
Do you remember that gloomy
I'll just get them later. Let's proceed with finding Carthia, where she is in Septimont. And there's also a waypoint. We can unlock this one, so we can save some time going back and forth. We're gonna need it. We are gonna need it. Wait, let me fly up.
Be gone, wicked souls!
Oops, that's not the flight mechanic. It's not the flight button. Wait, there's a chest up there. 2 chests. Hey, this one.
Provisions.
Right, so let's find this waypoint. It's down there. Should have unlocked this first. Alright, okay, so we fly back up, I guess. Fly back up and go to the top of the tower. Past this bridge. This environment looks really good. I am a tourist right now. Wait, let's take a photo of the area down below. If only my graphics card could handle the maximum graphics of this thing. So just the camera. Nice. Okay.
I can fly too.
I can fly too. I can fly too.
You said Cartothea might have been here. Do you have an idea of where she passed through?
I think somewhere over there.
Down there.
That's where the statue of Hercules is.
Statue of Hercules. This looks like a rooftop arena.
I can fly too.
Oh yeah, it is an arena. Let's do it some other time. Yo, this looks so nice. What the hell? Let's take a photo. Let's take a photo with Rover. Let's take off that mask. Take off the mask. Take off Rover's mask. Take a photo. Look at the details of the water. This is too good for a gacha game. Holy shit.
This is the place. I'll look for Cartothea's traces here.
Oh, the music, it's Cartothea's theme. It's her theme song, but it's a different variation. It's a variation of the song.
Through the connection we share.
Ah, because we are the arbiter, and Cartothea is the sentinel resonator.
All right then. I'll wait here. Good luck.
Call upon the power of Imperator, calling for the one who shares its essence. The unique frequency passes through your blade and spreads across the water in ripples, but the connection weakens, fading into the distance. Cartothea isn't here. I'm sorry, but your Cartothea is in another castle.
How's it going? You look frustrated.
Seems like we still have a lead on Arsinosa.
That's right. I'm sure you'll make progress by the finals. Hercules. His statues once stood tall on both sides of the street, watching over the heroes of Septimon as they set out to hunt. Back then, the chimes drifting up from the city with the finest sounds of glory. Beware of the Kerosaurs lurking below. Those tacit discords will ambush anyone who falls into the water.
Oh,
There's the city's ruins down there?
those jumpy jelly beans.
Yes, remnants
wait,
of the
wait.
old district. We rarely use this route since it's too dangerous, but some thrill seekers come here to hunt tacit discords. Speaking of which, this area is actually under Silver jurisdiction. I used to play here as a child.
Wait, so what does that mean? Silva jurisdiction, what does that mean? Anyway, let us proceed with... Okay. Lay down here. Right, so...
Thea. I've never heard that name before, but it feels strangely familiar.
Yeah, it's because the Septimont isn't really that big on the Sentinel and the Order. They're like a autonomous region. Oh wait, there she is.
Someone's still alive. Are you okay? You seem like a local. Are there any other survivors?
Wait, when was this?
I'm managing. I can still move, but I'm exhausted. I've walked for so long, for so far, but I still can't leave this city.
Was this during the dark time?
The white tidal blight follows me wherever I go.
Scars of dark tide's touch. It may appear as discoloration, calcification, or coral-like growths depending on what has been corrupted, I see.
Tidal blight? Could she mean the dark tide? What's your name?
I don't remember.
That's all right. Memories can be recovered. And so can your name. I've been through something similar myself, and someone helped me find my way back. I've only just arrived here. All of Septimont is cloaked in mist. Would you mind sharing with me what you still remember?
Wait, hold on. Oh shit, it wasn't taking screenshots after all. Oh no, I thought I was saving the screenshots. Wait, let's try again. Screenshot. Did it work? I don't know. Let me just check my screenshots folder. Wait, did it work? Never mind.
Who are you?
My name is Thea. I'm Raguna's... I'm a wandering knight from Raguna.
A wandering knight.
Wait, what? What's happening? Oh, it's the jumpy jellypin thing. The annoying mob. It is the annoying mob that jumps a lot. Jumps a lot.
I'll take care of them.
Okay, so we got this.
forth and face my blade.
Welcome to my city!
Whoa,
Griffin's
what a
fortress
transition
of
though.
Capitolini Hill.
Capitolini Hill. Yo, look at this place. So much going on. No, what happened to these guys? They look so lost.
Who are they?
Oh, some minor noble houses that didn't make it into the Aegon.
Ah, okay. There were some
In Septimon,
participants.
strength and power go hand in hand. Nobles get more, but they better prove they're worth it and pull their weight for the city. The Aegon isn't just about fortune. It's a way to find the capable. For nobles, the ability to command and control echoes is a basic responsibility.
Wait, what's this floating thing? There's something floating in the right side.
If the air of a noble
Oh,
house
it's about a
isn't
place.
strong enough, it signals that the house is unfit to hunt down tacit discords or protect Septimont. So, if a noble's been living it up, they'll end up broke and thrown out of the city after paying high patronage fees for a gladiator who doesn't even make the cut.
Sounds harsh.
Might not work like this everywhere, but here in Septimont, with the dark tide breathing down on necks, it's our survival code.
Breathing down our necks.
For most Septimontians, the Aegon isn't just an event. It's the training ground nobles and commoners alike have to fight in.
Mm-hmm.
The victors show no mercy to the defeated. People here despise weakness, worship strength, and crave glory. Where you come from doesn't matter. Prove yourself, and the crowd will scream your name. The spotlight's yours, the arena's your stage. But if you can't keep up, if you're not chosen, you'll be left in the shadows.
It's fine, we live to fight another day, eh? It's gonna be fine.
We haven't had anything to eat since those two matches.
Wait, let me just see why is my
Just moving on what you
screenshot thing not working.
Oh, I can already smell it. Can almost taste it.
Let's see, actions, action cues, screenshot. Screenshot. Hey, hold on, this is scuff. Screenshot. That's weird, why is it not saving? Pictures. In OBS. Sort by newest first. Oh wait, I got the screenshots, but never mind. Oh, it's the wrong folder, I see. That is why. Oh, there we go. Okay, I fixed it. Okay, back to the game. What's going on here? We got some... What's this? They watching something? They're watching what's going on with the fight, eh? It's like a tournament. It's like you're watching like an esports tournament. Revenge story peaks of prestige, Visit the cable cars. Another weird spam message. Yeah, isn't this Lupa? There's like a trailer thing which shows Lupa's promoting her, I think, sponsor. Gladiators in this Septimont region got their own sponsors. Amazing.
Fulvia! 2 large platters, please, with 2 bottles of hardpour.
What's that? Oh, Hardpour is the name of the energy drink. Hardpour.
Oh, it's Lupa.
I heard she left the Bow of Legions.
That's enough, folks. You know the rules. No gossip outside the arena.
Yo, this looks so... The lighting looks insane.
Just dig in.
Hey, yo, we got some pizza.
Still got that fire, huh, Fulvia?
You should talk. Finally cut ties with the Silvers, eh? With the way they handle the share of profits, you should have left sooner.
Well, back then, a strong backer was exactly what I needed. Can't say it was all bad.
So, this is your new partner. Looks like you can handle yourself.
Yes, I am. Okay. So you can tell just by looking, the most dependable one in all of Solaris at your service. Yes, yes, yes.
Well, well. You better prove it in the Aegon then.
Don't worry, we win this. We win this.
Hardpour is sold out today. Guess the celebrity branding really worked. What?
She couldn't even drink her own energy drink, eh?
What's
her G Fuel? The Gladiator Fuel, G Fuel.
A drink I endorsed. Most of the drinks I promoted were... but this one's actually really good.
That's just cute.
If my name's on it, you don't have to worry about quality. It's just that the taste... Well, let's just say it's meh. At best. Anyway, I'll get you a taste of Hardpour later. For now, let's enjoy the meal.
Pizza!
So,
let's go eat.
Warrior, any stories to share? There is still much to learn about you.
Well, let's see. We rescued the Blessed Maiden back from the inverted tower. Back in 2.3? Yes.
Hey Lupa, got a message from old Abius. He said the new batch of restored footage just arrived, including those about Contender Mia.
Oh, thanks! Oh, I almost forgot with everything going on lately.
Restored footage?
Recordings of major matches or famous contenders. Helpful for those who want to learn from them. F4 Augustas are the most popular. 4 years ago, she became the champion and
oh, this future playable, Augusta.
Crushing every single opponent. From there, she worked her way up into the F4 seat.
The F4 seat. F4 is like the one that's spearheading the competition. Is that what it is?
But I prefer watching Contender Mia's matches over any of the past champions. I think she's got real heart. You can feel it, even through the recordings. The way she threw herself into every fight.
Do you think we'll face her in this Aegon?
Not likely. She disappeared during a great Aegon years ago.
Huh. 3 years ago, Great Aegon.
Some say she got tangled up in illegal betting scandals. Others think the pressure from her manager drove her to leave Septimont. There are plenty of rumors, but no one knows what really happened. Still, it's frustrating to just disappear halfway through. If you fail to make it to the end, people will see you as nothing.
But
Solace never disappoints. Their dishes hit the spot every time. Now that our bellies are full, time to relax. To Leonidas Hotel. It's the best place for travelers in Septimont. I've got a long-term rental there myself.
yo, let's take a screenshot once again. Screenshot after screenshot. Wait, let me open this camera menu and then hide everything. Wait, the lighting was good earlier. Oh, never mind, it's back. Wait, I see a cube. Must get the cubes. Hey, what do we got here? I'd like to buy something. What do we have? Oh, it's the alchemy shop, I see. Okay, so let's proceed with the next part, which is the Unitas Hotel. It's right here. It is right here. Check inside, check in baggage.
Ta-da! Welcome to your new spot. It's a lifetime suite, and it's yours anytime you need it during your stay in Septimont.
Sheesh, again, this place. Fancy place. Yo, the background music.
The Black Shores, huh? I'd love to see it one day. Maybe when the time's right, I'll venture beyond Septimont and explore the world out there. You know, gladiating means everything to me. I really, really love it. I know I'm lucky. I know what I want and I'm doing what I love. Compared to those drifting through life, I've already been given so much. But sometimes...
Sometimes?
Well, I'm not unhappy. I was born for this, but the more I embrace it, the more I fear losing it. I can't help but wonder, what is it that fills me up when I'm under those lights? My passion for the fight? Or the favor it brings me? If one day I lost that favor, would I be more helpless, panicked, and heartbroken than those who never had it in the first place?
No, that's just sad.
Would I still be able to say I love this life?
If you truly love it, even if you wouldn't, you shouldn't blame yourself for it. That's something only you can figure out. I'd say I'm going with the second option. Even if you wouldn't, you shouldn't blame yourself for it.
Thank you. You're kind. I'll try not to dwell on it. Still, sometimes I feel guilty. Why should I be so lucky when others aren't?
Oh.
Tomorrow is the semi-finals. we'd best get some rest.
It's been a long day. We've been fighting. So much fighting.
Good night, my fellow warrior.
Wait, what? Huh? Who was that? Excuse me. Lupa glitched. Game bug report. Wait, let's take a look. So we got like a... This looks like a diorama. The Great Aegon Schedule, what is it? Oh, the thing. Oops, not that one. Traveler's Guide to Septimont. Cliffside Harbor, that's too long though. Okay, I think we get some rest then. Get some rest. You lie down on the soft bed and the phonograph beside you, lulling you to sleep. I didn't read all of that.
Words. Lines of them. They're all around me.
Hey yo, for all overtime.
And music coming from above.
Yo, we're gonna meet Frolova. Frolova, we've been waiting for you since day one. Next patch for sure. Sheesh. Frolova time, let's go.
This is but an illusion. One of the nights, one of dreams. Not like the spectacle.
We ain't messing around.
The carnival.
Oh, she's so pretty. Wait, screenshot.
Here, I am not your foe, nor can we harm each other. Should we so wish? Lay your blade to rest, if only for now. 'Tis a pleasure to see you again, on this special stage.
Nah. My pleasure. It's been my pleasure as well.
A city wild and beautiful, chasing endless glory. Tell me, does Septimont please you as much as Raguna once did?
Let's cut to the chase. You're connected to Cardathia's disappearance. Has the Praxidus hand already reached Septimont? Question mark.
When one wrestles against the torrents of fate, every signpost is an anchor, guiding you toward the infinite horizon. Let's take our time.
I really like her accent in the English dub.
No one will bother us here. I have an associate who adores the heroic tales told throughout this land. For this reason, the missing girl you seek and the anomaly you sensed in Septimont, they are indeed threads in this tapestry. You could call it an obsession of his.
Christopher? Tell me what you really came to say. Tell me what the Praxidus is planning. So many questions.
Every hero's tale begins with a trial. Your wisdom and courage, your compassion and resolve, your hope and madness. Will they be strong enough to carry you through the trial? To make you the hero of the story?
Yo, a present from Frolova. We take that.
Read it. I hope the story speaks to you. The
Oh shit,
answers
I
you
was
seek
trying to
lie
take
within these
screenshots.
pages. If we
we continue to meet as foes, the symphony grows monotonous. I confess I find it rather uninspired.
Screenshot, screenshot. Screenshot, more screenshot. Hey, what's inside? Ooh. Interesting.
Again, Frolova. What are you doing here in Septimont? Why give me this?
I am giving this story a little nudge. As of now, you and that blessed maiden from the tower are deeply interwoven in the fate he has spun.
So you're not the only overseer active in Renacida.
Yeah, it's Christopher, the other one.
Scar, your nameless ally, and you. The Fraxidus seems to revel in the company of those with twisted obsessions.
It's not as you imagine. You've already met my associate, you see. He trusts what he sees, not the words of others.
I've already crossed paths with him since arriving in Renacida.
Big clue, he's wearing red.
As a creator, he always hopes his characters will craft twists and turns that he himself cannot foresee. He believes that the closer one stands to the protagonist, the greater their influence over the tale.
I like this, so many frames of Frolova. We're getting so much Frolova frames. Okay, so take a screenshot again.
But the true lead of the story has yet to emerge.
Frolovers unite. Frolovers unite.
I gave you this play so you can see the ending. That gladiator girl will be the harbinger of the dark tide in Septimont.
A dark tide in Septimont? What the? Lupa? No way.
All glory will be consumed, and the pride of heroes will dissolve within a blackened maelstrom. Such is the finale she holds most dear. This is a short story, one that only lasts 3 days. When the final match concludes, so too will this story.
That is a spoiler.
You could claim the spotlight by ending her life
In 3 days.
in Falls. Change the ending, and the tragedy is averted. But should you falter, or worse, warn her of what's to come, the consequences will spiral far beyond anything you can imagine.
What you're proposing, I do. Tell me, what reason do I have to trust a word you're saying, Frolova?
You don't need to trust me. Let my words slip from your thoughts if you wish. As I've already said, the story will unfold as my associate has written it. The choice lies with you. It is a freedom we all hold.
Wait, what the fuck? What if...
Even the wildest imagination.
What if they're like the Stellaron hunters of WoW? Crazy, but... shot in the dark, shot in the dark.
It follows a template, and even its creator cannot escape its confines. Choose wisely, Rover. Time is still on your side. For now.
Oh, I think I know who I'm gonna draw next.
I look forward to your performance.
I think I know who I'm gonna draw next. You get so many for Loba frames. I think I took a bunch of screenshots here and there. Hey, what's this? Let's see. Wolf's Companion. Sword clashes with the Septimonian gladiators. Spear, steel meaning steel. Steel meeting steel in clanging force. Those wild, fiery eyes look straight at you and ashamedly revealing a glimmer of admiration. Lupa invites you, the Outlander, to join her in the great Aegon drawn by the faint traces of Carthia. Of the Carthia frequency that you sense in her. You agree. And yet, you can tell that Lupa's cheeriness is somewhat of an act stemming from not her nature but a force of habit. In the depths of the sea, Carthia steps in front of the incubator. Salty hint of seawater drifts in the thin, still air. Wait, what's this in the... It's Lupa, okay? I see Lupa. It's like a face-off. She can feel the one that's... she's been searching for lying in the incubator, curled up like a newborn. Carthia raises her sword and cuts the device open without a blink. Dark water within explodes forth. Immediately, tidal blight starts to crawl and proliferate. As the fluid drains, the gladiator's girl's face is revealed. She opens her eyes. So this is what's been happening so far according to Frolova's book. A dark sea rolled over Septimon's jagged cliffs, surging down the pristine cobblestone streets, drenching the golden flags and wind chimes, engulfing men and women, young and old. Like a mist descending from the blackened ocean above, it dragged its writhing mass across the land toward the far side of the sea on its pilgrimage across the world. Lupa is swallowed by the tide's relentless churn. The hymn swells from her chest, crawling forth to escape from her parted lips. An esoteric melody fills the boundless darkness. Okay, we got the script, so what is about to happen? Oh, okay. Good morning, Lupa. Good morning, Lupa. How are you?
Morning, fellow warrior. Huh. You don't exactly look well rested.
Frolova may not have told the whole truth, but there's no denying the anomaly here in Septimont. Neither Lupa nor the others here seem to notice. And that fleeting image, Lupa turning into that unfamiliar girl. I need more clues before making any decisions. I'm fine. Just a bad dream. Let's get going. Our next stop is the Colosseum Olympus, right?
You got it. Let's get going.
The one who voices Rover, male Rovers, it's actually a good voice. I'm a fan of the voice. I'm so fascinated with voice actors overall. Such amazing talents.
I can fly too.
There, we grab that one and proceed. Wait. Go to the Colosseum or optional, enter by taking the elevator, which is right here. So down we go. Kind of want to see around though. Kind of want to look around. So many people. I bet these people are gossiping once again.
But I down that carousel with just one blow.
Look at this man. Sheesh. He's showing off to the girls. I managed to beat this guy with one hand. That's how much of a Chad I am. Wait, let's listen to what's he saying.
Wow.
And the girls go like, wow. Wait, we can't talk to him?
Not to brag, but I down that carousel with just one.
Oh, he's talking about a carousel, the jumpy thing. I downed that carousel with one big swoop. And that wins me the ladies. Wait. Look at this food. There's bananas there. It's like the stuffed turkey? Is that a turkey? There's pizza. These are holy, these are big apples. It's the size of my head. Anyway, I've been off tangent, so let's go back. I think I gotta go in like 18 minutes, so I don't wanna go overtime. Lupa fans, hello. Shout out to Lupa fans. We got some Lupa fans here. Hey, let's give it up for Lupa as she makes her way onto the arena. Yo, the atmosphere in this area. So these are our opponents, eh? Oh wait, let's fight.
As expected, the Silvers chose to face
Oh,
us.
so those are the Silvas.
The news spreads quickly.
You knew this was coming?
Of course. To them, it's a provocation. And to forfeit would be a disgrace. Dominant Julia must be here. She wouldn't miss a moment like this. She's shrewd and exceptionally capable, but arrogant to the core. She's convinced that she's always right.
We'll show her, don't worry.
Talking things through, thinks it's for the weak.
Don't worry, we got this.
Show her we don't need rigged matches to win.
We got this.
We'll win with pure strength.
Yeah, it's gonna be a landslide. It's gonna be a landslide victory for all of us. Yo, it's Augusta. Holy screenshot. Fuck, I screenshotted the wrong thing.
4 years have passed, and I stand before you once more. Not as a gladiator, but as a witness to the start of this grand event.
So she's overseeing this event, okay. I thought she's one of the gladiators.
You all know well that gladiatorial combat is the lifeblood of our ancient and mighty city. Seize power and fight for victory. Once, we fought to survive on the seas. That same instinct courses through our veins today. The instinct to face fate head on and defy it. Remember, those who cling to glory without the strength to defend it will see it slip through their fingers.
Beautiful accents, man.
Warriors, by the eternal sun, may your courage honor Septimont.
And prove in loyalty to its spirit.
I look forward to the rise of new heroes in this Aegon. Let the Aegon begin.
Big fish. Big fish. Yo, what a spectacle.
Come, my fellow warriors.
What a spectacle, dear my. Okay. Let's bring home the bacon and win this thing. Let's go. Wait, we can use Cardathia. Oh wait, I thought it's already. I thought the battle is on.
Ready for the gladiators, Aegon?
Okay, couldn't be more ready.
Happy hunting, gladiators.
Alright, let's go. Let's do this. Let's do this. I am ready. Watering Wing. Wait, by all legends, this is the former faction of Lupa, I think. That's our former teammates.
Let's settle this, Emilio, fair and square.
Waves rise. Judgment strikes.
Look for this house.
Oh shit, I'm lagging.
Perfect teamwork. You make quite the hunting party.
Will face judgment.
Dodge.
Annihilation.
Look for this house.
I am the tempest.
Sheesh.
Wind rises.
I can't dodge.
Look for this house.
The wicked will face judgment.
We won or we lost? Scripted loss? Yo, what the fuck? What the fuck? Lock in!
This frequency, it's like the dark tide.
Oh shit. Oh shit. It's coming through. It's coming through.
Thanks, my fellow warrior. Can't win, so you play dirty in the arena, huh? You make me sick!
Whoa, she's on fire. This girl is on fire. Yo, I thought that guy got beheaded. Holy. It's just his helmet. It's just his helmet. Oof. Rip Bozo.
Esteemed Ephor, I must bring a grave matter to your attention. In this very match, the Silvers stooped to underhanded tactics.
Punishable.
Plainly, gladiator.
This spear, it was a gift from Domina Julia, head of House Silver when I first joined the family. Back then, I trusted the Silvers completely, never once doubting their intentions. That is, until I chose to leave them, not long ago. Now in today's arena, this spear spiraled out of control, nearly stabbing my own teammate.
Rigged. So that's what they mean about rigging matches.
Of course. And your proof? Honorable Ephor, I guarantee this spear will withstand any scrutiny. Lupa, you owe your fame and fortune to our patronage. Yet, you turned your back on us when we needed you the most. Allow me to remind everyone, House Silver does not cower, nor fear defeat. In past Aegons, we have constantly led in victories. Even if we lose today, we will not be expelled from Septimont. So tell me, Lupa, who is truly desperate to destroy whom? A lone gladiator cut off from her family? Or a house as powerful as mine?
Oh shit, this is bad. People are now whispering, gossiping, slander under their breaths. Under their breaths.
Enough of this disgrace.
Stop your performance
Prince Jester.
Yo, sun and moon, let's go. Wait, screenshot.
What?
I really like the designs. Bro fell in love. That was quite the entrance.
That's Yuno, the priestess of
Yuno.
Septimond. She rarely leaves the temple and only shows up accompanying F4 Augusta.
Wait, she can foretell fate, so couldn't she know what the Fraxidus plot is all about?
The heroic spirits of the moon and stars have long seen through it. These hollow lies taint Septimon's sacred arena. Guilty.
Oh shit, who's guilty? Who is guilty?
I said it was.
It's obvious.
I said it was.
No chance.
No, I said it.
50 face.
That can't be right.
It's typical, isn't it?
Augusta, banish the Silvers from Septimont.
Oh, there we go. Nice. GG's.
The priestess can foretell fate and has the power to make final calls here. Most people trust her judgment. But Yuno is a bit extreme in our line of priestesses. Not everyone agrees with her behavior, despite her capabilities.
But why? If she has the power to foretell fate, and that... Never mind. Let's see.
This can't. This is very confusing. Sorry.
Exposed.
Guilty.
Caught.
The temple has spoken.
You are banned. Bonk. Game libing bonk. Ligi bonk.
That's outrageous. Unbelievable. Despicable stuff. Yeah, I do too. Yeah, they're guilty.
Off with her hand.
Julia Silva, you know the weight of your actions.
Oof. That's rough, buddy.
I know your family once stood as the cornerstone of this city. Its pioneers, its founders, its protectors. For centuries, the Silvers fought bravely in the hunting grounds, defending Septimont from tacit discords. But today, you dishonor their legacy. Do not disgrace them further, Julia. Leave Septimont. Do not ever return.
Oof. Banned. You're banned from the server.
You command, F4.
Oh no, she's gonna do some crazy shit now.
Your performance just now, that wasn't a complete disaster. At least you show more promise than those idiots retreating to cling to their meager points. An outlander. Fight well, both of you. Do not disappoint me or Augusta in tomorrow's final.
Alright, so we met Yuno and
the other semi-final
the Silvers
concludes.
are banned.
Let's head to the lounge for a break.
Okay, one more cutscene, then I'll be calling it off for tonight. It's almost 12:30 in the morning. Midnight. Wait, can I fly?
Let me cut to the chase. The Silvers are finished. F4 Augusta's swift decision sealed their fate. Don't tell me you had no part in this.
Who's to say? How could I predict Domina Julia would tamper with my spear?
Regardless, House Silver has been banished. Even if they deceived you first, you still left their team without a word and violated your contract. You can't deny that.
Skip to the end, Cartor. You're not here to catch up or spread gossip.
Fine then. I handled the Silver's sponsorship of the Bow of Legions, and I can ensure the damage to your career is minimal. In return, I'll be your event manager for
This
next
is one
year.
slimy dude. Don't align yourself with him. Lupa, don't align yourself with this guy.
Deal. But we'll need
Never
new
mind.
terms.
New
I trust you'll
terms.
draw up a contract that satisfies me, Cartor.
Always ready to squeeze an opportunity, aren't you, Luca?
The Silvers lit the spark, but you turned a blind eye to what was happening. Don't fool yourself, Cartor. You're complicit in this too.
Fine. We'll do it your way.
Wait! You didn't come to me just for money, did you?
F4 Augusta, the fiercest hunter in the grounds, our queen. If there's a storm brewing in Septimont, I intend to find the right place to take shelter.
Finally some peace. What a day.
Can't catch a break, eh? Mention F4 Augusta's judgment.
F4 Augusta had a humble origin.
Augusta.
The path to power was paved in blood. Decades ago, corruption ran rampant in Septimont, far worse than it is now. Two F4s met untimely ends back then. The great Aegon carries immense weight for the city, and I guess that's why she chose this moment to act. The priestess of Septimont has the authority to make final judgments. Yuno, in particular, is one of F4 Augusta's staunchest allies. Most prophets spend their days in the temple, observing fate's flow
and tending to
the eternal
eternal
flames.
flames.
But Yuno's different. She prefers to spend her time in the hunting grounds, bow in hand, patrolling with the other fighters. Born during an eclipse, she's the most gifted among her line. Impressive, isn't it?
Okay, so now we are in the finals.
That's right. I owe you for helping me escape Julia's tricks.
Wait, so who's the other finalist though?
That fleeting frequency. It was similar to the Thenodians. Could it really be linked to the dark tide Lupa will bring forth in Septimont, as Verlova said? Lupa, can I see your spear?
Here you are.
Pointy.
I can't feel that abnormal frequency anymore. Lupa, does Domina Julia believe in the Sentinel?
Well, if anything, she despises the acolytes in Raguna. Her obsession with titles is for the glory that comes with them. She prides herself on being the perfect Septimontian. It's highly unlikely she'd believe in the Sentinel.
I see.
Sorry.
Sheesh.
Lend me your shoulder for a moment. I'm a bit tired.
Go ahead.
Oh, wow. That's settled. Looks like the other two teams have wrapped up their match. The semi-finals are over. Finally, we can leave and get some rest.
Contender Lupa! Oh, congratulations on reaching the final! Oh, and your performance earlier was truly impressive.
Lupa, did you notice any signs of match fixing involving House Silver before?
I told you.
0 to 100 real quick.
Has been exploiting their gladiators, but no one dared to speak up.
If you win the final, oh, you will have the whole of Solace raising their drinks to your name.
All right, everyone. I'll chat with you later. But first, let's give my fellow warrior a moment to breathe, okay? He's new to Septimont. I'm sure none of you want to get carried away and leave a bad impression on an Outlander, Go. Find somewhere quiet to rest. I'll meet up with you once I've dealt with all this.
Okay, let's go somewhere. Wait, I think this is gonna be the perfect time to stop for now. I think I'm gonna call it here, so that's a good chunk of the story right there. We have some full of scenes right there. So I can't wait to proceed with more streams probably. I don't know how long can I stream the next time, but I'll try drawing more on stream and getting in some continuation of this 2.4 story quest. So anyways guys, this has been Finch. Thank you very much guys for dropping by, our dear lurkers and those who dropped by earlier. I appreciate each one of you. This has been Finch and I'll see you guys next time. Chiapsu! Goodbye everyone. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.